So guys, we got an exciting guest coming in today. I'm pumped, I tell you. This city of Franklin race is getting heated up. And I've got one of the potential aldermen that's coming over today. Actually, I think I hear him right now. Gary, is that you?
Yeah,
Come in here, man.
Yeah. How you doing there?
I'm doing good. Good to see you.
Your wife, Sarah, was gracious enough to give me a cup of coffee, and I said hello to the kids, so I'm ready to do some business. Let's talk about the city of Franklin.
Let's do it. Yeah, she's not afraid to brew somebody up a cup of coffee.
No, I'm going to be good and strong. I don't think I'll go to sleep here, Jay, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, you can't do that if you're going to be alderman. You can't be sleeping at the wheel now.
Well, that's the truth. Sometimes I might need a nap for working long hours for the city of Franklin, so we can talk about that too.
Well, how are you doing today?
Well, it's just like back home. We all used to say it's like hanging in there like a hair on a biscuit. So I'm ready to go. Let's get this thing started.
I don't usually like hair on my biscuits, but I feel you on that. Well, Gary, like I was just telling the people before you walked in the room here, you're a lifelong Tennessean. You've been in and out of Williamson County for, I think, a few decades now, maybe for your whole life. If you don't mind, give us, I don't want to intro you for you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your history, why you love this area, and what it means to you to be an alderman?
Well, Jay, I lived in the College Grove area as a farmer down on Cox Road. My dad, we didn't own any land. We had to rent our land, so we were sharecroppers. We actually had to pay the privilege of farming. And so we were dependent upon the weather and the markets and different things, but we grew tobacco, corn, wheat, soybeans, hogs, cattle, hay, straw, vegetables, and did everything we could to pay our bills. So it finally got to the point when I got to be 18 years old that Dad said, you know what, there's not enough around here for both of us to make a living. So I went to college and I stayed with agriculture and got a degree in 1979 in plant and soil science. And the amazing thing about that term, God must have been working with me then, because he said, Gary, there's an opportunity for you to get a job. Your best friend's father has got a job opening with the United States Department of Agriculture, Soil Conservation Service. And before you knew it, I had 37 years with that group.
Wow.
So that's involved in government. People have wondered, do I know anything about government at all? Sure, yeah. I do. I know I fell off the turnip wagon and I rolled into Franklin as a pumpkin, but believe it or not, I do have an education and spent 37 years with the federal government.
Well, being with the federal government at that time, did you still work here, or were you?
I was scattered around the state. I led many different counties in a soil conservation program using federal monies to help farmers with their soil and water and land issues.
But you weren't cooped up in a federal office building down in D.C.
Oh, no. I was with the farmers on their farm or homeowners in their yards, whatever it took to help them satisfy their soil erosion or water quality and water quantity problems. So it got to the point I needed to move on, do something else, and a job opportunity came open through a friend to work with some nonprofit entities in the protection of farmland.
Okay.
Now that means farmland that will stay a farm forever, Jay. Until God calls us home, it's going to stay a farm. Now, it's done by the use of a conservation easement, and so we'll get into that a little bit later, but I spent 5 years in the protection of farmland, and then another opportunity came open. I always wanted to finish my career in the government also, but in the state government. So I worked with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture for 5 years as a plant inspector, checking plants for insects and diseases and making sure their quality was good enough for the homeowners to take home or the business owners to plant in the landscaping around all these growing areas like here in Franklin.
So you're, man, very connected to the soil of this
region. Grassroots, soil, dirt. I told somebody in a meeting not long ago is that God brought us up out of the dust, and then we're going to end our lives back to dust. Well, I had dust one more time. I had it in my eyes and my hands and my mouth. I was in the dirt. And so I've learned a lot about agriculture and farming, the stewardship of our soil and water and our natural resources. And I want to bring that mentality back to the city of Franklin like it was when I grew up here in the 1960s and 70s. My job took me across the state with the federal government, working in different counties, but my mom and dad still lived here. My friends are still here, so I was in and out of Williamson County my entire life, and now 13 years over in the Forest Cross and Riverview area with my beautiful and wonderful spiritual wife, Martha. And she was a nurse, so you're going to hear a lot about us loving on people having the Holy Spirit in us, loving Jesus Christ. And she spent 37 years, 38, nearly 40, I guess it was, as a surgical nurse. But then the last 5 or 6 years with the hospice care in Franklin, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
Aveanna, I think is what it's named now. But she went home, coming home to me and telling me about all the sicknesses and all the illnesses and the pitiful positions where people didn't have families, Jay, to take care of them. So she had a very warm and caring heart for those people, and she'll get calls today from some of these people's families thanking them for her care.
That's fantastic. Well, Gary, that's some good history on your life, your experiences, and I can see why you would be a good fit to be an alderman. But at the same time, you know, you're 67 years old. You could be doing anything right now.
That's right.
And I would say that this, you know, BOMA in general, the alderman and the mayor position, it's probably as heated as any race has been in a long time. Why would you want to put yourself in the crosshairs like that?
You know, I could be at home. I could be drinking my sweet tea, watching Tennessee beat Alabama this coming weekend. Lots of things, playing with my grandson, and that stopped there. The grandson is part of it. I'm worried about our children, Jay, and I've had people, what are you worried about? People on the other side, because they don't seem to understand that there's things going on in the city of Franklin that are not specific to the care and welfare and the safeguarding, the protection, the restoring of cultural and moral and traditional values that we had in Franklin. When I grew up, I played softball with Standard Farm Store right on the square. They sponsored us, and it was a great experience. I can remember going in and around the square, watching kids play, listening to them squeal with laughter, and everybody being happy. And nobody's worried about somebody getting their kids like we are now. Now, I know that's nationwide that we're worried about, but it's also in Franklin, and it's not to the point that it's that bad, but we are allowing things to happen through our permitting process that we need to relook at. And before I get into that, I want to say that I want to honor our officials right now, the mayor, Brandy, the rest of BOMA, all of them, because they have served many, many years on the board and they're smart. They've learned many things. But the permitting process is something that we need to relook at. So I'm not talking about these people as individuals, their characters. I do not want to assassinate or slander or say anything. But the votes speak for them when they say yes to the Pride festivals. When last spring I attended it and the mayor had a way out of it because they violated their contract and their permit, and it was discussed right there in front of everybody. But yet BOMA, with the mayor breaking the tie, decided that, you know what, Pride Festival gets another chance. Do we all deserve chances? Sure we do. But this is a morality issue. This is something beyond getting a second chance because you violated your contract, and the mayor could have taken the easy way out and voted no, and then we wouldn't have had all this confusion and chaos. You wouldn't even have me in the race, Jay, today, because I wouldn't have been as concerned and really troubled about it, sitting at home and thinking about my grandson. Hey, let's talk about the other children around here too. What about all the minorities in this area, the children of disabilities, the handicapped children? I'm for any kind of child anywhere that's either a transgendered child or a child of transgendered parents. I don't care what they are, as long as children and families and young adults, they need some help to stay away from the sexualization that they're bringing forth in these so-called family-friendly Pride Festival events that they proudly display, LBGTQ plus whatever, and they all represent a sexual phase. Jay, you and I are heterosexuals. We don't go around with a big H next to our name. Okay, so why should they have their sexuality exposed to everyone, and they want to think about their sexuality phase? Keep that to yourself. I don't care if you want to do it down in the van next to the river. Go down there, have it on somebody else's farm. Your supporters ought to be calling you and saying, hey, bring your Pride Festival to our farm, not to city. I'm going to speak for the county and the school board property too. Also, there ought not be any permits where citizens' taxpayers' money goes towards any permits of sexual in nature. If the Pilgrimage Festival had on the side of some sexual stuff going on, I would vote no to that. It's that simple to me. It's either you provide all this sexual activity or you don't.
Yeah.
So
Oh, and my guess is if the BOMA last year had to vote on some kind of event that was highly heterosexual in nature, let's even if it's away from God's plan for heterosexual monogamy, but let's say that they invited a bunch of strippers from Nashville to come out.
There you go.
I have a feeling that it would get voted down.
I have that feeling also. It's that simple.
So there's a little different agenda at play.
I understand that these people have rights. I understand that. I understand that they are human beings. I understand that. I understand I love them too as people. It's their actions that I cannot like, and it's just like the votes of the BOMA. That's what I'm against, is their votes. I'm not against them. So I just want to see our permits curbed entirely. Whatever permit it is, sexual in nature, has to be relooked at. I think we need to even revise this permit, and I want to lead the charge on revising these permits to get explicit information from any of these groups that are going to use sexual in nature. It is not family friendly. It's adult friendly. And what's a triple X rating on something? That's adults. It's not family friendly. These are triple X rated things with drag queens coming and doing their shows. There are sexual adult toys being hung around necks and distributed and for display. And kids are there?
Yeah. Well, they've made it clear the larger agenda nationwide, specifically or especially, has said that we are targeting kids.
That's
we
right.
want kids to be in on this, and we can see it with the educational direction, all those things.
That's right.
But it's also very spiritual in nature.
Yes.
Did you know that I got kicked out of that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, I was about 200 feet away. Now, I'd been very friendly. I'd walked through the event. I'd even talked to some people, vendors, not even about my faith, nothing like that. Just said, hey, what are you selling? They're selling soap or whatever.
Right.
And but I was there with a group of guys, and we had about 200 feet away from the event, out in the lawn area, right? There's no tents, nothing.
That's right.
And we all prayed. We were just praying. We finished the prayer. We look up, and there comes 7 cops along with the staff. And, one of the guys that was with me actually knows Mayor Moore and tried to call him. Well, he was out of town. He was nowhere to be found during that event, which I found that very interesting.
That's right.
But even more interesting was the fact that of all times to approach us, it wasn't like we were harassing or hassling anyone. They walked up and they said, y'all got to get out of here. And then the specific phrase I remember was, you can practice your First Amendment rights over there across the street.
Well, see, that's an amazing thing too. Let's bring up Joe while we're doing it. The guy that went into the Pride Festival year before or this year, whenever it was, and they arrested him. Now, to me, it was a setup of sorts, because here he is. He's wearing his Jesus shirt. He's got his Bible in hand. He's very peaceful and calm. He gets to the admission gates. They take his money. I don't know really if it was free or paid, but they let him in the gate. And he goes to tent after tent, and people are wanting to talk to him. I've heard his story. I've talked to him directly about it. I do not think he's a liar. I do not think he's stretching the truth. And so he's just doing his thing, talking to people. People are talking to him, and all of a sudden, just like you said, here comes the policeman after him. It's because somebody in the Pride leadership decided that maybe he's the one they need to pick on. He's one person all by himself, and he's just trying to do something for the good Lord or above, and try to talk to people, and nobody's mad or upset, but then they create the scene. And I think it would behoove Brandy and the BOMA and the mayor to draft up a letter and send to court. Send to the courts. He's going up sometime in early November. They have still not let him go yet. It would behoove these people to write a letter. They want to write letters all the time. We're going to talk about some of their letters later. But they will not sit down and do that in support of Joe and his constitutional right of free speech and a practice of religion, after he's allowed in there and he's not causing any trouble whatsoever. They just want him out of there. And then he sort of stubs up a little. I think I'd stub up too, Jay, if somebody wanted to haul me off for no reason at all. So I don't know why BOMA and the mayor just don't sit down and write a letter in support of Joe and his constitutional rights, but they will not do it, and this guy is suffering, and it's shame on them for doing that, the BOMA and all, that they will not step forward and try to help Joe out of this situation.
Do you think that that's a sign of what's to come?
Yes. They have already declared, the Pride Festival management has already declared, this is not an opinion, it's fact. Most everything I've said now so far has been fact, and I'm going to try to relate that too as time as it goes. But they've already said to the mayor and to others that they're coming back next year bigger, badder, and bigger, because they're going to bring back all their drag queen shows.
Oh, yeah.
That's one
I've
thing
seen the
they had to
videos
stop.
on that.
Yeah,
They said we lament the fact that we had to
Yes.
stop that.
Yes.
Next year, though, look
Yeah.
out. I mean, so they've told us what's coming.
They've told us what's coming, so we're prepared. And guess what? There's no kickback or no pushback. They're going to be welcome in again. It'll go before BOMA, and if BOMA gets their way, they will have their way again, because there won't be enough votes to stop it.
Yeah.
Now, all the candidates on their side, that means the mayor, Brandy, Miss Ann, and the new candidate, Greg Caesar, are all in favor of Pride. They've already stated they will support Pride coming back next
Do
year.
you think that's because they see the direction of the country and they want to stay in the loop on that? They don't want to have that battle on their hands? Or are they true believers? They want those things to come to pass.
They all have families. So why would you want to subject your own children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren to these events?
Well, I can only think of one reason. If they're actually progressives in their heart.
Yes.
So they can say I'm a Republican, I'm conservative, but it's in name only.
Yeah.
If they bought into that ideology, then they would want their kids to be exposed to those things.
And you know, if I could be as bold and brash to say, I'll tell you what, next year if it's voted in, I'm going to make sure that all the Pride Festival goers and the people there understand there are some porters in this city or the county, and that they ought to go to see the mayor at his home, Brandy at her home, all the others who get elected to the BOMA or on the BOMA, and they want to support Pride, then they can go to their homes and have events and spend the nights, do whatever they want to there. They're welcome there. I bet you they'd change their tune then, wouldn't they, Jay? They probably wouldn't want them in their homes and their lawns. But let's give them that opportunity.
Yeah, right.
But if I'm Bowman, I'm voting for it. If they're not going to be in my home and all, then at least I'm going to approach my friends and say, hey, you've got a 100-acre farm out here in the middle of the county. It's not public property. It's not school property. It's not city property, county property. Let's just have it on your 100-acre farm, because you support me and I support Pride, so why don't we have it on your place?
There you go.
I tell you what, everything in the city is going to be held responsible if I'm elected. And one of the things, to help the trolley system, let's just bus these Pride people out to these farms and these people's homes, and let's just give them a way to get out there. Let's use our trolleys. I'll even pay for a lot of their fees to ride these trolley cars. Now, as absurd as that sounds, we're in a theater of absurdity right now, Jay. It's the theater of absurdity.
Just the fact that we're even talking about sexual events in nature being approved or disapproved, and that it's some big controversy, it's kind of crazy. But I agree with you. It's kind of like we're just in this big pantomime right now. Everybody's playing a role. Yeah. Let me ask you about charitable giving. Okay. You've told me a lot of people want to know about your involvement in the community and who you've given to, things like that. Share with us a little bit about that.
There seems to be quite a bit of interest in my livelihood, I guess, what I'm doing, who I'm supporting, and that type of thing. And that's fine. I have no problem with that. People are not reading my website because it's all over it. So I wrote a few notes here, Jay, just so I wouldn't forget. So I'm going to have to look at them. It's so many, but if they'd read my website, they'd see easily where my heart is. It's for preaching the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ and being a child of God. Can't we treat our children like God treats us because we're a child of God? Can't we let children be our children of our parents? And why can't our parents control our own children? Why can't our cities and counties and things avoid permits and things sexual in nature to our children? Why? And I'll tell you why it goes so deep to me is because of these groups that have children in them, or young adults, or people that are hurting. Franktown, my wife and I, we give them money, sizable money. Now, when I'm talking money to all these groups, it's sizable money. It's not $100, it's not $200. It's sizable money. I am not rich by no means, but my God has blessed me. Oh, He's blessed me wonderfully, my wife and I, and we're trying to give back, and we've been doing this now for last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So Franktown here in Franklin, We've even given them tools. We've even facilitated a donation of a van to Franktown using our own money and time. Bridges domestic abuse, I've given them lots of money. We've given them lots of women's items. We go to the fundraisers. Hunters for the Hungry, I wrote that in here. You know, people have asked, you know, about my hunting and different things for reasons too. I guess that's his guns and that type of thing. We're not going to get into all that, but I've killed 13 deer to give to the hungry people leaving jail through Cultivate and Men of Valor. I'm going to give names of organizations, Jay, that people will think that I'm just making some of this stuff up. Hunters for the Hungry, they can Google that group too. I gave them 13 deer that I went out and killed at my own cost. Now, the processing was paid for by the
You
state.
probably got to have some fun doing it too.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I love that part, of course. And I love eating it.
Yeah,
But I
right.
know these people are hungry, and
Sure.
I have checked up on them, and they are so pleased to have such a great source of protein that's free to them.
Yeah, and protein, the cost of that.
Yeah,
these
you try to
days.
go by state, and these people don't have the money. They're
Yeah.
fresh out of jail. They've got drug charges, DUI charges, maybe minor abuse charges of sorts. But they're coming out of jail with nothing to do, nothing to hold on to, and these other groups are providing them jobs. And I thought the least I can do is provide food and money. And I'll tell you one even a little better with them. I was out there at Cultivate one day, and it was raining cats and dogs, and they were trying to go to the gardens. They take them in the gardens. They grow food for the public, teaching them responsibility, Christian giving, that type of thing. And they're all in shoes that are just in terrible shape. No boots. They don't have money to buy shoes or nice boots or anything. So I went immediately, and I have bought 13 pairs of really nice rubber boots for these girls. There's a girl or two occasionally, it's mostly men, to go out into the gardens and work. They can't work in tennis shoes that are, the soles are flopping down, they've got holes in them. And that really gets to me, Jay. That kind of stuff just tears me up. These people need help. And I'm going to help them. And God says we're to help these people. We're supposed to help the wounded and the orphaned and the people. And our children of God have got to have help. Our children, all these groups. I'll keep going. I can get upset about this. Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. We give lots of money. I help support volunteer work out there at the home. Grace Works right here in Franklin. We do a lot of giving there, my wife and I. I buy furniture there to give to people coming out of jail. They don't owe me a thing. I don't want a thing. They can give me a thank you, and it makes my heart swell up with pride, but it makes me feel better. No, I'm serving God by giving these people who need something. God said in the Bible that if someone comes to your house and you just maybe give them a peanut butter sandwich and you send them on their way, that's not enough. God says, give them that peanut butter sandwich, give them drink, give them rest, give them a bed to sleep in, a shower the next morning. I'm paraphrasing, of
Yeah, I
course.
say, does it actually say peanut butter or a different kind?
It's just trying to use
I
today's
hear you.
terminology. And so the next morning, if it's cold out, you're to give them a coat. If it's hot out, give them something cool to wear, but send them on their way fully prepared for outdoors. So that's what we're doing there with Grace Works. I've mentioned Cultivate, Men of Valor, Nashville Rescue Mission, the homeless. So St. Jude Children's Home, my wife and I do a monthly recurring payment to them every month. My heart bleeds for children, man. You ought to see it now. Gary Sinise and the Foundation for Wounded Veterans.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure our veterans get some of our money, and we do that, a monthly contribution. We have veterans in our neighborhood. My wife and I have taken them food and helping them with their landscaping around their homes. We went to the Vet Fest, and we just don't go to stand around and look. We're actually spending money to help support these people. They brought these goods. These hats, this hat that I'm very proud of, came from Vet Fest last weekend. I know this is probably a lot on you, but one or two more. The World Outreach Church.
Yeah, in Murfreesboro.
In Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
My wife and I been looking for a church. We like several churches here, but for some reason we just kept looking and wandering around and seeking, and we both grew up in small churches. Jay, you're a younger guy. Probably all you know are large churches.
Hey, I grew up in Murfreesboro. I went to a little Baptist church called Northside Baptist.
Oh, yeah, okay, well,
Then I got used to the bigger churches, and now I'm kind of like sick of that. I want something that's small with a lively group of people.
Well, World Outreach is a town
It's
of its
big,
own.
it's
It needs
big.
a zip code, man. It's
Yeah.
so big.
Yeah.
So my wife and I said, we really don't want to go, but my grandson lives in Murfreesboro, one of my grandsons, and my mother lives at Triune. Well, it's right on the way. So we said one morning to each other, let's go see them. While we're there, let's go see what this hubbub is about, World Outreach Church.
Yeah.
Because they have great singers there, great speakers there. They do a lot of things with kids and youth. Again, that's my theme. So we get over there. I step in the door, Jay, and God convicts me. I have to stay there. He said, Gary, you're staying here. You ain't going anywhere else. I need you here at World Outreach Church. And so I said, yes, sir. That's what my daddy told me. Say yes, sir, and no, sir. Even if it's God, you got to respect them. So I walk over to the small study group, my booth, and my wife and I. And there's a card to fill out. Everybody gets an opportunity to sign up for something immediately if you want to. Well, I'm filling it out, and over on the right-hand side, Jay, it says leader. I check it. First day I ever walk in.
Just
I check
leader.
It just says to be a leader, lead a small group, that type of thing.
Right.
Because you're seeking a small group, and we wanted to do that. The very next day, I get a call. Gary, you and your wife are going to be leading a small study group in Franklin, Tennessee at your home. Do you want to do it or not?
That's
I
great.
said, I have to do it. God told me I had to. I mean, that was a prayer answered very easily, and we've been leading a small study group in our church, or in our home now for a year and a half, ever since we stepped in the door of that church. Okay? We're up to 20 people. We could grow. We could double that. They keep telling us they have more and more people in Franklin seeking a small study group. So I guess I'll make a pitch out there. If y'all want to have people out in Franklin want to join us every Monday night at 6:30. Now I'm going to have to go rent a place because our house is small. We don't have anything big like here in Franklin. But I'll make that little pitch and hush on that World Outreach. Other than we're going to have a large building program going on out there.
Yep.
And for who? The kids. Now it's not a school. It's a very nice facility that brings about church history. Church history. How much have you ever heard about church history? And anything to do with the educational experiences of the Bible and relating it to church history. So our money will be involved in that quite heavily, and I want to see that done. I have made donations to many different other people. If I can remember years ago this started, I mean this was 35 years ago when $20 meant something. And I remember a good friend of mine walking through a building, and he was going through a divorce, and he needed to see his little girl. It was just tearing him apart. He didn't even have gas money. And I said, all I've got is $20 in my billfold, but you can have it. You go see that little girl immediately, and if you need more and you get back, you borrow it, whatever you got to do, and I'll pay for the rest of it. So this has been in my heart from day one, is to be a giving person. And that's all God wants us to do, is to give our life for Him and to do that through others, Jay. And that's the only reason I want to be an alderman at large, is to give. I want to be a servant leader. I want to be a servant to the city. I want to be a servant to the citizens. I want to be a servant through God to them, to try to preach the word of Jesus Christ, as well as bring about some homegrown loving and teaching and caring and passion, self-control, humility. These are things that we're absent of, that God grants us through the fruits of righteousness. And I just want to see this done even more. And I don't know where it's left us exactly. I just know that being an alderman at large, that I can provide that view, as well as a homegrown farm boy, up to a Christian with a biblical worldview. And that's what I want to do, Jay, is to help restore the soul of Franklin.
What word would you give to those watching who are not Christians, but they do care about the city, they care about Franklin, and maybe on the pride issue and the other issues, they're not really gung-ho either way.
That's right. Yeah.
But they want to see Franklin be healthy and vibrant, and for whatever. What would you have to say to that group of people that maybe they hadn't decided who they're going to vote for, but the stuff about your faith, and as much as that may mean to you and me, it doesn't mean as much to them.
That's right. I think deep down inside of every one of us, there are consciences, there are moral compasses, there's the feeling of doing right, maybe even being right. Now, we might disagree, but we can always agree to disagree, Jay. And those people that just maybe not as worried about some of this issues, and I've heard from some of those people, but you know what? They're going to look at me 9 times out of 10. They'll say, Gary, I see this passion in you. I see it in your eyes. I hear it in your voice. I know what you're saying. I can believe you. Politicians, I don't believe. And Jay, this word politician is killing me. I'm not a politician. That's the reason why I want to call myself some kind of servant to someone, because that's the way I want to live my life. And I tell these people, if you want me to lead you and guide you and help you through city matters, that I'm going to bring in my Lord, if you don't mind. If you don't believe, that's fine. But what about if we didn't have the Lord in this? As an atheist friend told me one time, we had a long discussion, about an hour, of very high-tempered pitches, volumes up and down, as you can just imagine. And when we ended, we were best friends, and we still are today. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and he said, Gary, if there wasn't people like you that actually believed like you do, there would be so much chaos and confusion and disorder and so many bad things going on that we could not exist as a world or a country. And that has always stuck to me, even from an atheist friend of mine. So the people I try to talk to that, and if you're looking at me, surely you can hear this in my voice or seeing it in me. I've heard it so many times. People will look at me when I'm sitting there at the early voting booth areas inside that entrance gate. If you want to come by and say hello to me, please do. But I see thumbs up, I see waves, I see points, and they're saying, you're our man. I've got a good friend that went riding on his little motorcycle, and he's got my sign, vote for Gary Moore, on the back of his motorcycle. A great story. He really warmed my heart with it. He said when he come out, this guy apparently was waiting or watching around, and he said, Gary Moore, that's our guy. So that's all I can say. If people will just talk to me and give me a chance and read my website, they're going to see what I mean, whether they're a believer or not.
So Gary, I hear it from the perspective of your Christian faith and those who are going to vote for you and giving you the thumbs up, and then the people in the middle that they just need to give you a chance. Right. What about the third group? Because there's a third group that's very vitriolic. You know, you and I had a phone conversation previously about people coming at you because of your faith. You even brought a sign today. We can hold it up in a minute. Where there's been vandalism and all this stuff. What's going on there? Why the hatred and animosity towards people of faith, especially in an area like Franklin, where outside of Tennessee they'd say, well, that's the middle of the Bible Belt. That wouldn't be happening there.
Yeah, we're even the buckle. I call us the buckle. We're the center of everything. But for some reason or another, and I'm going to say, and I mean this in all honesty, my other colleagues across the aisle, it's just a small group. It can't be a large number. I just won't let myself believe that. But these campaigns are not reeling in their people. And I'm going to give you some examples. These are the truth, people. You're going to hear me. It's the truth about some things that are going on. And particularly signage. Let's just start that way. Okay. Let's just start off with this main one here, Jay. Nope. Here, I need to give you. Yeah.
Okay. Let's flip that one. It's not you and you. You'd have,
Okay.
There we go. Yeah.
As you see, look, we're going to hold it apart where you can see the space between it, but it matches up perfectly. And what you see, people out there, is my banner of my wife and I, my beautiful wife, and we're just advertising just like anybody else has the right, the constitutional right to advertise. This was not on somebody's property that didn't want it there. They wanted it on their property, but yet somebody drove by and took a knife. Of course, we got their fingerprints on here. Took a knife and cut right down the middle, right between, they made it purposely between my wife and I. Now, is that not vicious? Is this not wrong? Is this not intimidation? Is this not fear? Is this not the thing that we're reading and seeing about the colleagues on my side? What about the colleagues on your side, your support base? Look at what they're doing to me and my wife. That's just one example. Another one we have on film. I have actually filmed somebody ripping off signs, stealing them and putting them in their trunk and driving off with them. We have them identified. Now people are saying, well, why don't you come forward with it? I do not want to be a troublemaker, Jay. I do not want this to be settled by some kind of vicious act. I just want it to be done by the voters. Let the voters decide. I think Boma even decided one time to let the voters decide about a certain issue, but then they backtracked on that, and we'll get into a little bit of some of that. But these are some things that the signage has come about where they're being stolen. I saw them being put in the trunk of a car, and like I said, I videotaped the car and the license plate. And Jay, the license plate was even not registered to that vehicle. So there's even more going on. Let's talk about some signage at a property that I go into. I'm not going to try to get into a lot of details with names and people and locations because we'll figure them all out. I'll be glad to give it to somebody if they will talk to me reasonably. But I go in and I talk to this man and his wife or his mother. I couldn't see. They were in the back of the house. And I told them what I was representing and what I was doing, and the lady in the back went to shouting and screaming. I mean, I thought we were going to have church, as I said, on the spot. She was so happy as I was there trying to do something about children.
Yeah.
And of course, children of all ages are having troubles nowadays, and these, again, it's just near and dear to my heart. And by the time I left, I asked the gentleman at the door and the lady in the back, I said, "Do you mind if I put a sign out front?" "Yes, sir." They said, "No problem. Put your sign out there." I go back, I think it's about 2 days later, and guess what? My sign is gone, but guess what? The other 4 signs are up.
Yeah.
The mayor, Brandy, Caesar, and Ann. They're all right there in place of mine. Now, did those people, were they confused? Maybe they were. Were they threatened? Maybe they were. Were they changing their minds, because people can change their minds? Maybe they were. I don't know, Jay, but I'm just telling you, my sign was gone and those 4 are in place.
Yeah.
I have found my signs, and we have it on video, in trash cans, all crumbled up in trash cans. The sign wore, and I got an email last night, and I'm going to end up with this because I could go on and on about some of this stuff. They've called it petty on this email I got last night, and it is.
Email from who?
I can't say the name, but from a group of people supporting the other people. It's not petty, people, when you see your sign slashed in 2 between your wife and yourself. Okay, that's not petty. It's petty when we're fussing about county property or easement property or something, because I don't get into that fight. But the one last night was calling it petty, and it was this one particular instance where there were a bunch of signs around the Brandy's, and the mayor's sign was laying in the yard. My sign was there. I think maybe Mr. Feldman, maybe Mr. George's sign also, but the mayor and Miss Brandy's were there. And it was just grouped up. It was just a nasty little mess of signs. And I don't blame the homeowner. He was upset about it, and he made a comment, and that's fine. And other people started joining in on his comments. Well, I went into prayer about it that night, and I thought about what to do. Some of this stuff has got to be answered, and I've been very careful about answering things. So I went and got some money out of the bank. I needed some money, and I went to the homeowner's place this morning, as a matter of fact, and I gave him some money. I said, "I am sorry." It's significant money, I think. I said, "I'm very sorry for the inconvenience, but I only have 4, 5, 6 people that's actually putting out signs. We put out messages, called a person or 2. We found out that nobody did that on my group, nobody at all. And so it was not my campaign group, because we're just a small, insignificant group, don't even have money. Our signs are not even as big as theirs, and we wouldn't do that." And the gentleman was very nice. He said, "I understand." He said, "Maybe it's something else going on." And I'm going to leave it at that, because we talked a little bit more about some stuff. But yes, sir, there's some other things going on. But it may not be exactly what he's thinking, but it is other people trying to intervene into this and create some nastiness. Now,
Have you been subject to any of the attacks? I know you're not big in terms of social media and all those kind of things, but there has been, due to Nashville media and all this stuff, there has been an overwhelming kind of tamping down of conservative voices in this area, in this race, from people all over the country.
Yeah.
Have you been a victim of that at all? Or?
It's been a little bit of that, not a lot. Facebook kicked me off for a little while. I've gotten these emails. I've got some really...
Facebook kicked you off?
Yeah. I'm glad.
What'd you post?
Wait a minute. Excuse me. Nextdoor, Facebook. It's one of those 2 sites. I get it all confused which one, but one of those 2 sites kicked me off for stating my mind about permits and that type of thing.
Really?
Yes. Oh yeah. Again, I have a constitutional right to do that,
Yeah.
but they kicked me plumb off. All right, so let's end it on this signage stuff because it is a petty thing unless some serious things happen, like the cutting of the sign and this issue. I had a man and a woman that I mistakenly walked onto their property. I do not go onto properties if I see Brandy sign there. That's just not right. It's not kosher. I missed seeing the sign properly, and I saw someone in the backyard, and as I was walking to another yard, I thought, well, I'll just stop by. Well, for next 3 or 4 minutes, I was berated with being a Christian, and that Christians didn't belong in Franklin, that they need to get rid of Christians. And so I said, I'll just pray for you, and that ran all over him. And then after that, I got away and went to my other fellow that I wanted to talk to. He allowed me to put his sign in the yard. That just shows you how different it is from yard to yard to yard to yard. So now I'm coming back across the other way, and I'm avoiding that yard, but yet he goes in and he gets his wife out, and she gets into my face with just a hedge between the two of us and says, "You Christians are just a horrible bunch of people. We need to get rid of you Christians. There's things going on in Christianity that we just don't like. We want to get rid of all of you, that it's just not right. Christianity is not being done right. It's not practiced right." She went on and on and on. So it was really a very hard, depressing time upon me. It really hit me deep.
Was this your own neighborhood or somewhere near where you live?
No, this was in another neighborhood. I do a lot of door knocking. I'm not the social media person. I go to doors.
Well, hey, if you're getting Facebook and Nextdoor confused, you're not a social media guy. I respect that. I have to be, but no, I'm kind of glad you're not.
I'm not. My wife laughs at me and shakes her head a lot of times. "Don't you understand which is which yet?" And I say, "No, I don't want to." So let's end it about signage. This is just a mess, but let's touch on 2 or 3 other things.
Yeah, let me ask you about, because this is a good question for those that, again, may not care about that whole war between, the morality thing and the pride thing and all that stuff, but they do care about the growth.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned to me, mid-8. That's going to be across from the factory, potentially. Urban growth boundaries, and then this is something I really want to know myself. Growth exceeding our own infrastructure.
Correct.
And what's the potential negatives of that?
That's
so
right.
if you don't mind, start with mid-8. Explain what that is, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, the mid-8 is a large, high-density facility that wanted it to exceed the skyline of beautiful Franklin, but I think now we've got it narrowed down somewhat. I don't know exactly. It's been passed. The permit has. I want to look into it, though, and I want to understand what went on because there was discrepancies in the height. There is a 7/8 of a lot allowed per car. 7/8, Jay.
Of a lot.
Of a lot, a parking area.
Okay.
So how's that?
A parking
car,
space.
Yeah, how's a car going to park that in a 7/8 of the size of a car?
Better be a good parallel parker.
Yeah, that's what I think. It better be a bicycle or a pair of roller skates, man. If you got the brand new key, then maybe they can use their roller skates down there. But then there's floodplain issues. All right, so you got a car down there, or you got your $2,000 bike or your $500 roller skates, because this is the 7th largest, richest, wealthiest city and county in the nation, you might say. It's the county, but the city makes the county. We all know that.
Yeah.
Most of the money's there. So what are we going to do in the floodplains? And the good Lord sends these flash floods. It don't have to be like the 2010 flood. I don't think it'll even be prepared for that. But what about these big flash floods that create all this flooding? Now we're going to have more flooding issues. Now this building's going to suffer some kind of flooding or floodplain issue because the parking and all is in the floodplain.
Okay.
It's going to have to be dynamited out. Now they say they're following the dynamite procedures and laws and protocol by the state. That's great. But there's so much infrastructure already real close around there. They're going to hear their antiques rattle. These people have these nice mansions and these nice old homes, these Victorian homes and all that beautiful antique glassware and that type of thing, windows and doors. They're going to hear things rattle over there. Those are some of the main issues. Plus, they have formed a group over there, the mid-8 group or core group. Some of them call themselves because they took it upon themselves to form a pack or group to resist mid-8 and talk to the alderman. They didn't necessarily want to resist it until they heard the whole story, so they invited their aldermen to come out one at a time to look at this site, to think about it. Now, I want to preempt this first by saying I am totally 100% for property rights. Whoever owns that property, and I think it's Toby Mack, a big gospel singer, I understand, I've heard him, I like him. It's his property. He has the right to do anything he wants to with that property. It's the problem belongs to that buyer. That buyer has to do his due diligence and find out through the county zoning laws, the county floodplain laws, the county permitting laws, the county this, or city, excuse me, I keep saying county, I mean city.
Yep.
All these city laws and zonings and historicals and all this kind of stuff, archaeology work, that seemed to have got sort of left behind. It wasn't all addressed.
Huh.
Okay, that's a fact, that's not an opinion. It wasn't all addressed, it wasn't all addressed properly. Mid-8 knows about it, and so they contested it. So they approached my opponent, Miss Brandy. Hey, what do you think about this? Well, I'm going to vote against it. Well, now people can change their minds. I'm going to probably change my mind too, but this is a big, important structure, like the pride thing was a big, important moral structure. This is a big, important building structure that she turned her vote and voted yes. With the BOMA board going along with it, except for 2 votes that went against it. And all these others were trying to show some concern and trueness, I think, to Mid-8, but they failed to turn it down, or at least send it back, table it, to try to get more review and understanding of the project. It was pushed through.
Review of how the elements could affect,
yes,
in a negative way, this property, even for Toby, right?
That's right. Well, no, Toby has the right to sell it. He took his money and put it in the bank. That's what I would do.
So he's not going to fight the elements?
No, he don't have to.
For
it's
those
the buyer.
that know what I just did right there, one of his most famous songs a couple years ago is called "I'll Fight the Elements," and it's all about the floods and blizzards and snowstorms, and he's running through the elements. So I was like, well, he's going to put people through the elements.
Yeah, that's right. But whenever you buy a piece of property, it's your responsibility to make sure it meets whatever rules and laws or whatever your desires are. So they didn't do enough good diligence, but they worked it out with BOMA some way. Now, that little part on the end is a little bit more of my opinion, but I hear it between so many people that there's something to that. And especially if one of the leaders in Core 8 with other 3 or 4 leaders want my signs, which they say they don't necessarily want to vote for everybody that's on the conservative side, but they said they'll vote for me. And so they've got my sign in their yards, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud that they'll do that and give me a chance to go forth and to look into this permit.
Just to simplify this one time, because I'm trying to wrap my head around the pros and cons here. What's the worst thing that can happen in your mind? Give me the worst thing that could happen if they do it as it is.
High density, congestion, worse traffic, hurting foundations or internal walls or something with all this dynamiting.
Okay.
Floodplain issues. When you go to plugging up a stream or a floodplain, then it's got to go somewhere, Jay. I do not know that they looked, as we did in our job with USDA, we checked the profile downstream of what happens when a blockage is in a floodplain or a stream. What's it going to do downstream? Or upstream, as it blocks it, what's it going to do upstream? And then when it releases, what does it do downstream? Is it going to take buildings and trash and trees and everything and put that downstream? So you look upstream for flooding problems, you look downstream for flooding due to all the debris or buildings or things.
Yeah.
God sends flash floods. Ever since 2010, we've had several big flash floods that put a lot of flooding into Franklin. And when you have this much more development going on with all the other, that means flooding is going to be a much, much higher potential of it. That's a fact. That's not me just talking.
So really, you're saying this just needs to be reviewed further and potentially some things changed about it before it's implemented.
That's exactly what I think.
Okay.
Now I know I'm just one vote, but if other people will join me, maybe we can at least relook at this.
And I think, speak to that for a minute. So if you're one alderman of 8, right? But you've got the most experience when it comes to water and conservation and the soil, how all that works together. Do you have the ear of the other aldermen at least to help, plead the case?
It's been asked of me, could I work with Beverly and Ken if I'm elected. Now, Beverly Berger is the conservative leader, I guess, on the board. I don't understand sometimes some of her votes or her opinions, but if I can work with Ken and Beverly, they say, then I can work with any other board.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
what about Brandy? So they must be thinking I'm going to beat Brandy. So it's interesting to me that they're worried about me working with Beverly and Ken instead of Brandy and Beverly and Ken working with the rest of Boma. Now, the Boma people have made their way to me and shook my hand and been very nice, except for Matt Brown, and Matt may be unavailable, or maybe we just not met each other, and that's fine. I'm not fussing. I'm just telling you I have at least met all of them but him, and everybody's been super nice to me. Miss Berger has been super nice to me. Again, I don't understand some of the things she's saying and doing lately. I don't understand the mayor some lately. Brandy, I don't understand. But there's just things going on within Boma that we need to take a harder look at, and I'm willing to relook at things and spend my own time now, and staying up late at night just reviewing things so that we can get a little better grasp on what's going on with Boma.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've talked about flooding. Let's talk about the other end of the spectrum here. You were talking to me off camera about water and well drilling.
Yeah.
And how I didn't know this. You said the Harpeth River, as it is right now, can only withstand about one drought, and then you're basically out of water for a third of Franklin.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I grew up on a farm, as I told you, down there in College Grove, Tennessee, and it was on 300 acres, and we had cattle and hogs, and they both lived outside and drank from ponds and streams, and so we had to have water for our crops. So when a drought hit, and I don't remember extended droughts growing up, but I know we had droughts at summertime, meaning May through October. Crops and livestock cannot stand just those few months. So if I take this knowledge with me to Boma, and Harpeth River is already being pulled out, there's a third of that water already coming out to part of the city. Berry Farms up into Franklin.
That'd be me too, right here, Sullivan.
I think so.
We're awfully close to Berry. It's only a half mile that way.
I don't know the exact limits, and I intend to research that, but I do know about a third or so of the water comes from the Harpeth River watershed. I have talked to the Harpeth Watershed Conservancy. We're on the same page. They agree with what I'm saying, that a next drought will pose enough problems. Now, they're going to say out there, Jay, that I'm fear-mongering. I'm not fear-mongering. I grew up on a farm with droughts. Droughts happen all the time. They hit cities. And when our infrastructure, our growth and everything is going up and up and up, and it's not slowing down at all. So what's happening with the Harpeth? All right, the growth is pulling more water out of the stream constantly. A drought hits, no water going into the stream.
Yeah.
Heat accompanies drought, especially when it's in the summer. So we got evaporation going out tremendously. Mm-hmm. People want to water their lawns and their golf courses and wash their cars. That's pulling more water out. So you got no water going in, but all this water going out right during the hot time of the year.
Yeah.
So that's going to drive water levels down so low that maybe our intake valves won't take it in properly. If it does, it sucks up silt and sediment and mud, and it will not work properly. It won't send the water up to our water pumps into our water tanks to be distributed out to our people. So one good drought will send us going to Kroger, Aldi's, Publix, Walmart, anywhere we can to find bottled water to get in here. Now,
so drinking water.
Water
from the shower, from the hose, that's still going to be...
That water is being recycled as we speak, as it should.
Okay.
But in this watershed that I'm talking about, it's being looked at and reclaimed and restored and rewashed, if you want to use that term, twice.
Okay.
They're having to wash that water twice to make it clean enough to pump back to you and your family to drink. Now, they're working on some water treatment plants down in the Berry Farms area. I commend you, Alderman Boma. I want you to personally hear that. I commend you on that. But there's still enough issues that there's better be some contingency plans written immediately, because now, Jay, I told you earlier, I checked the drought status of Franklin right now, today, because we haven't had rain the last couple of months. It's been just showers.
Yeah.
Showers do not put water into the river at all. Yeah. It's got to take serious runoff. And we are already, people, if you hadn't checked it, you can check me, U.S. Drought Monitor. We're already in the abnormally dry range. Abnormally dry. And what's coming up? Winter, Jay. What happens here in Tennessee in the winter?
We don't get a lot of rain.
We get it. It pours and it pours and it pours. Yeah. And snow some. We don't get enough snow, but we get rain. If we don't get that rain this winter, if our water supply keeps dropping down into severely dry and excessively dry, if we see those by February or March, we can look out. Next summer will be horrible in this town where the Harpeth River is supplying water to our residents. It will be a nightmare trying to find water. And then that leads into well drilling. Why in the world? Again, I'm bringing my knowledge from the farm right here to the city of Franklin. It will work. The biblical knowledge of God. God said if we'll repent and confess our sins, he'll what? Heal our land.
Yeah.
What's on our land, Jay? Buildings, homes, businesses, golf courses, hotels, restaurants, roads, infrastructure. The whole bit is on the land. God is saying if we'll just be true and faithful and just and repent of our sins and confess, he'll heal our land. Now, to me, what that's saying also, it may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. It's going to be in his will, his time, and his season of giving back to us as we move back to him, that he'll help us restore our land. Now, do I think we can pray at Boma and boom, like rub a genie's lamp and boom, our water treatment plants will be erected and fine? I'm not that silly, people. I've been hearing this already, but I'm not. I just believe that God will come to our minds, bring us back our skills and our talents and our common sense to work on these issues one at a time, as long as we treat God with the respect and the reverence and the fear that he deserves. So well drilling, I don't know why our developers, because they could even charge more money, is to go drill wells in these developments. Now, developers may panic if they'll just think about it a minute. If you can get water developers at approximately 1,000 feet deep, they call it the Knox Formation. It may be 800 feet, it may be 1,500 feet here. I don't know exactly. I just know it's there. And the Knox Formation is a forever supply of water that God put in our earth. All our developers.
It's called the Knox Formation?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you can Google that. So all they've got to do is drill a well, hit that water, put 2 or 3 or 4 wells. It just, whatever the gallons per minute they can produce, they could drill ever how many number of wells they want and put that water into the homes. And guess what? You're advertising fresh well water, not recycled, not reclaimed, not rewashed water, not water out of the rivers that are polluted. I hate to say that because I love our Harpeth River. I grew up on it. Even then, I wouldn't drink out of it. Now, I would drink out of springs feeding the Harpeth River, but I don't even know how many springs I'd actually dump my head in and drink anymore, because there are problems with runoff off of our pavements, our asphalt, our roads, our roofs. Everything that water touches that's not natural, like dirt or something, where it'll settle out in time, is a pollutant.
Yeah. All you got to do is go to the local water reclamation facility to find out about the pollutants in the water. Yeah, I put the roof on that place in Franklin, and you better believe I was holding my nose until about 30 minutes it takes to get used to that.
People, if you will just ask the city to allow you a tour of the waste treatment plants and let you see what's in those tanks that they're cleaning up, it will make you absolutely sick and turn your stomach. Am I fear-mongering? No, sir. I am telling just the truth, the fact. That's all it is. So back to the well drilling, because I love this. It's common sense. I've even had 2 or 3 people tell me, I've never thought about this. It makes perfect sense. So the developers drill their wells. So what? They're going to cost them, say it's $5, $10 a linear foot. They have to go 1,000 feet. What is that? $10,000? $10 something? Yeah. Okay, $10,000. That's all it is. Say they put in 5. That's $50,000. They put in 10. That's $100,000 in fresh well water. Fresh well water that people from California, Illinois, Maryland, Florida, Virginia, New York, they're coming in here. And if you could advertise all of that fresh well water, you could raise your rents up on your houses and or your sale prices and your rents on your apartments, couldn't you?
I would think so. I mean, it makes sense to me from a scientific perspective, because you know the answer to this. I think you kind of said it already. Even though the runoff may have pollutants in it, you said once it goes down into the soil, it naturally is like a filtration system.
That's right.
If you're going down 1,000 feet, because my first thought was, well, it's still got all the runoff in it, but it's being purified through the ground.
It's pure. When you go that deep, it's pure old water. You can drink it right out of the well. I've done it.
They don't do anything.
No, nothing. Not a thing to it. Just drink out of it. So developers, I want y'all to meet with me when I'm elected, because I want to have a meeting. You're one of the first groups I want a meeting with, and surely, if not all of you, I'm expecting 75% of you to show up out there, developers and contractors and remodelers and people who are in the house building business that needs to put water into homes. Okay, so that's one aspect, and then I want to just talk about a business aspect. Our golf courses, let's just take them particularly.
Okay.
If they don't have water, they can't play golf, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so some of them are attached to the Harpeth River, the one over there next to me, Forest Crossing. They can pull water out of the river, but if there's not water to pull, they've lost ever how many months of golf because their ponds, they've got ponds on their property, and they're having to seal them because they won't hold. But I give them an A for effort because they're trying to build some water holding ponds and surfaces there on their property so they can pump water out of that ponds, so they can have grass, so they can have golf, so they can have money to support their business and their employees.
Yeah.
So I want to meet with the golf courses too and the other people, maybe the HOA leaders, because we can't be irrigating our yards during the middle of a drought. We can't wash our cars in the middle of a drought. We can't water our flowers and our landscaping if we're in the middle of a drought. All that stuff's got to end. So these wells will bring about water like to the golf courses, and they can drill their own wells too. And then they can have their own fresh water supply. When the ponds and the city water is not plentiful, they can water with that fresh well water. Why in the world they wouldn't do it now? It's another added expense. I know what it is probably. And they don't want to pass it on to their other golfers, and contractors don't want to pass it on to their clients or their renters. But these are things that are smart that need to be done today.
Yeah.
Today, not yesterday. Now, a question that we're going to get to is, who's going to drill these wells? Good question, because when I grew up, there was a well driller on every corner instead of a Walgreens or a CVS, Jay. So the well drillers have gotten small here, very small. There's one or two, maybe 3, 4, 5 that I can think of that's serving a 100-mile area. There's just not that many around, and they're staying absolutely covered up.
Wow. With
people waking up out in the country and different things. The city hadn't really caught on to it, but I'm hoping the city will and work with contractors and golf courses.
I may need to start a well drilling contracting business on the side.
All right, that's where I want to start with the mayor and the other alderman, Boma, whoever it is, if I'm elected, is to start a incentivizing program of buying equipment and finding the people who already know how to drill wells. They just had to quit for whatever reason. Their equipment, people are getting old. My age group, the baby boomers, from about 60 to 90, we've quit. We're going home. And at least they're not like me trying to get into politics as bad as I hate to say that again. But our well drillers have gone home. They died off. Their equipment is old. So I want to start an incentivizing program to either buy or put as much money into new equipment, new people, new training, and create work and business and money and sales and tax revenues. This is a way that this money will yield back profit. That's the way I want to run this city. I want every department to stand on their own 2 feet with government helping and pitching in as we need to. Yeah. And this is a great opportunity to get water going, the most precious asset after air. Yeah. Water is second. And we got to get this water issue straightened out in Franklin so that we can have it to live on.
Yes, and I'm glad you're saying this because this is one of those practical issues that it doesn't matter what religion you are, what your morals are. Right. Everybody cares about having good, clean water and it being in abundance, not at a deficit. So, yeah, I appreciate your outlook on that.
Well, Gary, since we're talking about, natural resources and water and, conservation of our land and the beauty of it and all of those things, when it comes to conservation, people really care about that issue.
They do.
And here locally, we do have a lot of very beautiful spaces, and it's becoming a bigger thing in the public consciousness.
Yes,
and I know you've gotten a few emails about that. Tell us what you plan for the future in terms of conservation of our natural spaces.
Okay, there's a project that's in place now around Creekside. It's over there on MacHatcher, and I call it Spencer Creek or the Cheekwood Golf Course. United Methodist Church over there is a large acreage over there that's available for the city to obtain. But through the use of taxpayers' money that goes up into the millions to purchase land that is unusable, a lot of it's undevelopable, some of it is, some of it's not, and they want it protected as the gateway to Franklin. Hey, I'm 100% for it. I want to see again and sit down and see the request, how it's made, because I understand protocol was not followed. I do know about conservation easements, and that's what will be put up on this property to keep it as a natural gateway into Franklin. I'm 100% for it, but I'm 100% against it if it's being done incorrectly and it's not following the protocol of proper conservation easements. I've been approached by one of the owners that says he knows about conservation easements, and I have no doubt that he does. He has some in his own possession. He knows how it works. But there's something going on that doesn't smell right. It hasn't passed that can of salmon laying out in the sun with 100-degree weather, and it smells quite fishy.
Yeah.
There's something fishy going on, Jay, and I want to research it, and I want to see the paperwork from start to the ending to where it's left BOMA right now, and it's waiting to be passed in a month or two, I think is what they're trying to do, but it is going to be the new BOMA board that will act upon it, the way I understand it. So there's been a play on my attention, and that's great. I want them to, because this is something that's near and dear to me is the conservation of our natural spaces and the appearance and the aesthetics and the beauty of our area. It's absolutely beautiful here, no doubt. So I want to check into the process. I want to see the protocols. I do know this. I know something about land and soil and easements and water, so that's going to be my main prerogative to support any mayor or the BOMA when it comes to my votes on the board. Other votes, I might be able to be persuaded into some things, but these things are not.
On that issue, you're talking about one particular area being the gateway to Franklin and right there off MacHatcher.
Yeah.
Is that the only project right now that's on the table?
It's the only one right now that I know of because it's taken millions of dollars from whom? Taxpayers. They expect the citizens of this taxpayers just to hand them over a few $1 million, 6, 7, 8 million, I don't remember the exact number, to protect this land when it's unusable anyway. It's not that good a land. But the point is that it would provide a natural gateway into the town, but at taxpayers' expense into the millions is ridiculous. Because again, when I grew up on the farm and Daddy said we owed somebody $10 down the road, before we ate, that $10 had to be paid. Yeah. If he said we owed $10,000 at the College Grove Bank, guess what? We're going to pay that bank off at $10,000 before we start farming again the next year or even before we ate. So I want to apply that idea to this easement when it's requiring millions. If it's going to require hundreds of thousands, I can probably take a brief look at it and see that it's okay.
Sure.
But when we're talking about millions, I'm going to relook it.
Well, you talked about the protocols possibly not being followed. Kind of like I've asked on some other, questions. What's the worst thing that can happen if steps are skipped or it's not followed?
Well, it's just more debt on the taxpayers. We'll get into this again in a minute. We already owe in this county to the taxpayers. We already owe $150 million. City of Franklin, richest. It's even one of the richest cities. We can't give it a number yet, but the county is the 7th wealthiest county, and the city is the main part of the county. And why are we in that kind of debt already? $150 million. Now, some of it's bonds and this type of thing. That's fine, but we still incurred a huge debt. Your children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, if I have any, they're going to be looking at this debt if we just keep adding on to it, even if it's a little at a time. So I want to see this money, what it's going to go towards, and why it has to be this many dollars. Now, in relation to that, to try to persuade me, I'll say, they've had a person or two email me, one from Mid-8, that's on that Mid-8 core team. It's a lady. I'm not going to give her name. I don't have any desire to do that. But I've talked to the core group over there, and they do not understand to this day why she sent this email to me. I forwarded it to several people and get an opinion, and it goes back to this group of people that I've talked about at the Creek Project, the Creekside Project over there on Mac Hatcher. And she is referring to me without even knowing me. I think she's met me one time. I could not remember her name. And I have texted her, I have emailed her, and she has texted me back that she would want to talk to me sometime. But to this day, Jay, I've still not heard anything from her. And I'm asking for one opportunity, for her to afford me one opportunity to explain myself in this defamatory email that says I am not for open space. It's that plain. And because it's a little pressure being added to me that, you know, we're going to get you beat on this one issue if we can, because we want to see that land protected out there. And we've got all these groups supporting us and these people of certain magnitude in the county that says, I am against natural space conservation when that's one of my platform issues, and I'll stand by it.
Yeah, no, I can hear that in all of your other, conversations when it comes to natural resources. So I get that. Let's talk about City Hall for a minute. I mentioned earlier off camera that I did a lot of repair work over there, waterproofing, roofing patches. That place is having to be band-aided together all the time, at least on the building envelope. So there's something that needs to be done, right? Give me your thoughts on what should be done.
Well, it's very obvious to me the first thing, City Hall needs to go on city-owned property, free, okay? Move it over there next to the jail, and let's work all the jail and all the city agencies, all the city offices, all together. It's got plenty of parking. We can build a nice facility over there. They're wanting this facility to start. It's going to start at $100 million. They know it's going to be higher because of why? Inflation, supply and demand of building materials, the time until they get the shovel stuck into the ground to move that first blade of dirt after it's been approved. Then it's also got timing in there to get this thing built. So we may be 2 to 3 years down the road if let's say they approved it November the 1st. Mm-hmm. We're still looking at a distance way down the road. So we're going to be looking at $125 million, and I'll even project up to $150 million to get their building built in the existing spot in town where the City Hall is now. Get it rebuilt there with a garage built in downstairs in the basement area, versus moving this over there to where all the other city facilities are and putting everything together there and building a structure for, I'll say, half the cost, $50 million, $60 million. Okay, some people are saying $40 million. I'm going to say 50 to 60 because it's still going to take in time to get this thing. I, again, grew up on a farm, and when we see the future and we see droughts, we see market changes, we see politic problems, we see banking issues, we see supply and chain issues, it just means more and more money. Okay, so if you apply that, then City Hall it's not been passed yet. They're trying to get it passed where it's at. So let's go to where it's at right now. That is a high value piece of property.
Oh yeah.
High value,
right.
Into the millions, just a piece of property. Mm-hmm. So let's destroy it, the City Hall there, move it over there at the other place where you can get a roofing contract over there if you still want to do roofing.
I have to go back to my old company, but yeah, sure.
So if we turn that high piece of valued contract to businesses that match the other businesses. We don't want Walmart there. No. We don't want Dollar General store, and they'll be the first one to buy.
It's kind of an extension of what we already have on the main street there,
Yes,
right?
we don't need Dollar General store or Aldi's or Publix or anything there. We need just like what's being grown and developed.
How about a
around
Piggly
us.
Wiggly?
No, let's don't do that. Not even a baseball store, okay, Jay? But it would be a great facility to put in nice businesses again. And here's why I want to use the word incentivize. I want to go to the existing businesses there, and they'll be perfectly honest with me and say, Gary, I got a roof problem. Gary, I got a water issue. Gary, my floor is buckled. These are old buildings, and they have put lots of money into these things. I want to see our downtown stay vibrant. I want to see it stay beautiful and aesthetically pleasing, and tourists come in and not have to worry about stepping around buckets or having to do anything as time goes along. Now, that's not existing now because I want to be fair, because as we destroy the old city building and bring in new businesses with incentives, I want to help any small business with incentive payments, tax reductions, that kind of thing. Whatever it takes to get small businesses that matches everything else there to cover that area up. Maybe build a parking garage on the top. We need more parking garages. We can just put that on top. If we want to put it on the bottom level and the stores on top of the garage, that's fine, the parking garage. I don't know about going down into the ground with the garage. We're going to have to do a lot of geologic exploration because of the rock and the dynamiting and all of that again, with all that great stuff, old breakable stuff, the old buildings, the old infrastructure will suffer when they start all this dynamiting and all. So let's just try to, right now in my mind, until I see geologic reports, I want to build everything ground up.
And to be clear, you're talking about leave the existing structure in place and build on top?
No.
Or
Destroy it.
Demo. Okay.
Demo, complete demo.
That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah, and bring in parking and businesses. Or if it just needs to be all businesses, that's fine, but we're going to have to add more parking. And that's part of the infrastructure problem that we have here. We're leaving infrastructure behind.
Oh yeah, you could see that from parking downtown. I mean, you want to go to a coffee place or whatever, midday, you may be driving around and around and around.
You're going to park 10 blocks away, okay?
I've done it.
I've done it too.
Yeah.
So let's just reconsider that. That one little place of shops there will yield a lot of tax sales tax, tourist taxes, and all kinds of taxes and revenue generated there, you know, because these people are coming in with some high rent businesses, so they're going to have high priced items to sell that are nice. It's not because they're high priced, it's because they're extremely nice and eclectic. They have that homegrown downtown feeling of Franklin, okay, which is exceptionally unusual and different, all the different shops and things. It's not as different as Leaper's Fork, but Leaper's Fork is doing well based on an eclectic type stores and different things going in. So let's just fill that area full with some parking if we can. Let's get their sales tax revenue, their property tax revenue, their building revenues, whatever it takes out of that, and they're going to make such good money. Guess what? They're going to have to pay more taxes, you know, through the federal income taxes. Yeah. And so taxes can be generated without even raising taxes. It's just a part of the process on that valuable piece of property.
That
so
makes sense.
City Hall needs to move off, and that area, City Hall, where it is now, needs destroying and rebuilt back into small business with incentive, tax-free money as we can, and also help the older businesses who are using up their lifespan as infrastructure as an older type building.
Right. Well, speaking of structures that have been around a long time and may need to be demoed, let's talk about term limits for a minute.
Oh my, term limits. Okay, we had a meeting and we all had to state something about term limits, and I'm going to stick to what I said. I think if I get elected and I put in this 4 years, I don't know whether I would even run another 4 years. I'm going to have to pray and ask God if He wants me involved in this for another 4. That would be 8 years if I did. I think it ought to be an automatic skip of one term and then rerun for another term. Now that's not going to fit my age because I'm going to be too old and too long gone. God may take me home in that process. So I'm saying 2 terms for anybody, skip a term and then run for another term if they want to.
Yeah, but they've got a break in there.
Got to have a break. You got to get rid of them and new blood. We've got the mayor that's been there 15 or 20 years. Brandy's been there 12 years. Miss Peterson's been there
20,
I think it is. And I'm not saying nothing bad about them. These people are full of knowledge. And I hope, Miss Brandy, and I hope when you hear this, I'm pleading to you to work with me if I happen to beat you. I don't see me doing that. I'm being honest. You're well known. You're very well funded. You've got a lot of money. The PAC thing, we've looked at each other's financial reports, I'm sure, And you're getting a lot of PAC money from the growth people and different ones that want to see you back. They know you know some things. And so I'm all right with that. I want you to work with me and lead me in some of these items because I'm new. You were new too 12 years ago, Brandy. And so you had to learn the whole process. Maybe somebody helped you, maybe they didn't. But I'm interested in Miss Brandy working with me if I happen to get this job because she's got a lot of knowledge about this. But we all have to start somewhere. So
Right.
I'm going to be brand new and I'll be interested in studying and learning about some of the other things that I don't feel like I'm that well versed in. So term limits, they need to be used, period. I think we have it at the presidential level. We have it at the governor's level. Why not bring it on down into the city and the county levels?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been on vacation the last week, and I haven't heard a lot of the stuff going now. You know, over a week ago, I was all in. I was paying attention, but I kind of let that go. Since I've come back, I've been hearing this phrase about this Nazi letter. I don't know if that's the right term, but I think you called it a BOMA resolution that was brought forward. Tell me about that, because I really, until today, just kind of hearing about it, I didn't know what it even was.
I really don't want to talk about this, Jay, at all. I just cannot believe that we're actually sitting here in the city of Franklin discussing this. I'm going to tell it to you this way. There's a gentleman, I'm going to give you his name, it's Bob Ravner. He is the head of a group called, and I'm going to call them the No Sense, Nonsense Coalition. Because he has come out and vocally, many times through our paper, our Williamson County Herald, which I have worked with and had respect for, but they don't mind printing anything that comes through that's a paid ad, I guess, or anything, because they're printing everything said. And this Bob Ravner has attacked me, and I do not like being attacked. Now, I'll take it before they attack my colleagues or somebody else I know, my friends, my family, and you'll see me come out of the woodwork. But he's attacking me as the paper keeps attacking us, all of us, calling us I'm going to say the N-word. Our black Americans do not like the N-word, and we should never, ever say that N-word, and I firmly believe in that. So the N-word for white people, you might say is, and you mentioned it, I'm not even going to say it, it's such a bad word. The N-word is not me, and it's not anybody else I know. I don't even know anybody in this county on either side of the spectrum that's that N-word. Mm-hmm. It's a horrible word to call somebody that word, because if anybody knew what that word meant, or even if they put the word neo in front of it like they're trying to disguise it, that's back in the Holocaust days. That's something really ugly, mean, and evil. That is evil to the nth degree. And I do not respect anybody that wants to call anybody that. And before this gentleman ever gets my respect, and he's involved in several deals, and he's one in this Creek deal, I think, that wants me to vote just haphazardly, I guess, for him on anything that he wants. And I do not respect any use of that word, and to call me that and call my colleagues that. Now they're going to say, oh no, we didn't call you that. Well, you did, because the BOMA resolution that was presented by the BOMA, all of you people referred to us as that N-word because we would not denounce the neo word or the people that they were calling that. I'm not denouncing anybody. What I want to see denounced, Jay, is this cutting of my banner down here. Is that not intimidation and fear and hatred?
Yeah.
BOMA should have come out with a resolution that said, hey, listen, people, you people in the sign world running this, we're seeing signs cut and destroyed and trashed. We're seeing signs removed and other signs being put up. But did they write a resolution on that and asking for a denouncement? No way did they do that. Have they also sent things out like the things that's going on in Israel? Now, our mayor did, and I thank you, Mayor, for getting up and speaking in favor of the Israelites and the war over there, but we have Israelis people, Jewish people, here in Williamson County. Now, he addressed them, but we have a candidate, Jeff Feldman, who is a Jewish Christian Jew, however you want to say it, Messianic Jew. Where was the letter? Because they've been such harm and such picking on him. Whether he's perfectly true or not, I don't know his case. I know that Jeff is a fine fella, as far as I know, and a Messianic Jew. But where's the letter that's saying, hey, you know what? We apologize, Jeff, for the things that's been going on against you as a Messianic Jew with the Phil Williams report and all of us saying bad things about you. Where's that resolution at? There's no resolution announcing anything in this city election except for the things they want, that are sensationalist, that are trying to get attention, that are trying to defame and declare hatred and bigotry and evil against some of us for no reason at all. No reason at all, Jay. And I resent that. And I do not think that this is what Franklin is built on. And if they want to believe it, then they can. But I do not think Franklin is built on such hatred.
No, me neither. I mean, I get called that word all the time.
Yeah.
Based on nothing to do.
Yeah.
With what, and I'm not afraid to say it because I get called it all the time.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with what actual Nazis believed.
Yeah.
At all.
At all.
So it's actually, to me, such a boy who cried wolf thing where the words are losing meaning.
Yeah.
You know,
That's right.
that word should be reserved for, and by the way, to add something to your point, the Nazis had power to shut down people, to shut down businesses, to silence voices. Mm-hmm. They're calling us that. We're the complete underdogs that don't have that power. We're just saying, give us a chance to speak about what we believe.
Yeah, this poor individual he mentioned too about Joe that got arrested at the Pride Festival for doing nothing, just exercising his constitutional rights in a very calm manner. Why isn't there a resolution written up by BOMA there denouncing that activity?
Yeah.
Why wasn't there? It wouldn't draw enough money for the newspaper or create enough criticism against my colleagues and myself that's running in this race. It's ridiculous. It's a theater of absurdity.
Yes.
You know, we've got some great theaters in this town. I love every one of them. One of my dear friends run a theater here. It's a great theater. My mom and my aunt, I take them there. But we have become such actors on a stage that is so far beyond belief.
Yeah.
I hear the word unbelievable on both sides.
Yeah.
What's unbelievable? Everybody has their own opinion. But in this theater of absurdity, it's gone beyond belief, Jay.
That's why I wouldn't waste time denouncing anything that's all a fake issue to begin with.
Amen.
Amen. It's a waste of time. So, well, give us your final word. It's been a good discussion. It's been a long one, but I want to hear what you have to say to close things out to the people of Franklin.
Okay, let's end it on a few issues here. The first one, and I declared it at a meeting, much said about it, and that's okay, but I'm going to declare to the public right now that I am not taking my salary. It's a whole whopping $12,000 or $13,000 before taxes, but I'm going to donate all of that to what? To children, to families. I'm going to start with groups. I'm going to look at my notes because I've forgotten about some of this, but the homeschooling. I think there's a huge homeschooling, and I'm not trying to fight public schools or private schools. I'm all for private schools. I'm for public schools, but until we get some of that mess straightened out, and that we didn't go to was the DEI and the CRT and the ESGs, and maybe we'll talk about that sometime in the near future as the school races fire up. But I want to see my money helping homeschoolers first, PTA and PTO groups that are trying to fight the woke agendas getting into schools. I want to fight help for the homeless in Franklin. There's not that many. The inner city with their home repairs and remodels. You know, I'm talking about 12 to 13,000. I'm going to commit up to enough to get it to around 20,000 per year, and I'm going to put money towards these efforts. I am not going to give it to any organization unless they prove to me, and I vetted them, that they are a Christian conservative organization and can show me their true values, because I'll just soon give it to Joe Blow that wants to put in brand new windows in his home in the inner city than to give it to any organization. And I'm going to live by that. My wife and I have agreed to that. I'm looking at if there's transgender children out there that wants to have a reversal that's in this town, I'm going to pay for that as much as I can, as that money goes to help that. If their parents need help, I'll even go that far. For emotional stress, this dysphoria, gender dysphoria they talk about, it's not that. It's because they're just drilled in their heads in the Facebook and all these other social media things, and TV now has joined in, and our papers and our media has gone crazy in supporting all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it's relentless.
And they'll call you a Nazi if you don't agree with them.
Oh yeah, there you go. Thank you. You said it, not me. And then there's the sexual abuse, the molestation of children, the LGBTQ people who won't help, that want to escape this pride agenda. There are people out there, like we talked about, the Gays for Groomers, I think is the name of it. Is that the name? Against groomers. They're totally against this concept. They want out away from LGBTQ as quick as they can. And I want to support anybody that wants to try to clean up their minds, their hearts, and their souls. And if it means bringing their bodies back into place, I'm going to be for that. There are medicines and surgeries out here being used. I just want to see any and everything that's affecting our children and our families and our young adults. And I'll try to conclude with this. There's so much going on right now.
Yeah, right.
But I had a dream. I have not told this dream, and I'd forgotten I wanted to do this with you. I had a vision one night, and just like there's the vision between Democrats and Republicans, or atheists and Christians, or liberals and conservatives, woke and non-woke, there's a huge divide in my dream. And in this divide, there's nothing but children. Nothing but children. Age, just being born. Hopefully they've made it out of their womb. I'm a pro-lifer. I always will be. All the way on up into their teens, 20s, and 30s, because they've still not grown up, that their mental and emotional well-being, their spiritual well-being has been damaged. I see these kids all in this huge divide. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting up here on top. I'm in the world of safety and harmony and security, just like the rest of us here in Franklin and Williamson to you. We're in a donut hole. Our head is in the sand about everything that's going on. But I finally get up enough courage to look down into that, because I hear all of these children, minorities, white, black, green, purple hair, black toenails, transgendered kids, homeless kids, veterans kids. It does not matter. It's a child. Illegal immigrant kids to migrant kids. They're all kids. And kids, when they get around me, they love me, and they know that I have a sincere heart for them. It's even more than people that love their dogs and their cats, and that's okay too. But these kids are screaming at me, and they're hollering at me to please help them. Jay, I had to get in it. These kids have got to have some help.
Yeah.
I can't do much, but I can do all I can do.
Yeah.
And I intend to do it. One other thing I've talked to my wife about, election day is coming up. I think there's going to be 8 polling places. My wife and I are going to take the whole day from 7 to 7, or if there's people still in line at 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock. And I'm going to make a plea to you just in a minute, people. Don't cut this off. But we're going to go around, and I'm hoping there's people that will want to shake my hands and say, Gary, job well done. I want God to say that first, but I want to hear these people in line say, Gary, thank you for what you've done. We're here to vote for you. And I mean this, Jay. And I'm going to go from site to site to site. My wife and I, we're going to talk to these people. And if these people don't like me, they think I'm a hater. I've had people flip me the bird. I've had people do a thumbs down with a huge scowl. We've had people, I've not yet, but had people to spit on us. But the other group did come to us when some of that went on. I've had people scream at me. I've had people call me hater. And I've heard people say that you Christians have got to be done away with some way or another. You're sick. You're sick, sick people. Leave this town alone. It's perfect. It's great. Nothing is perfect or great except for heaven. And I want to get there one day, and I can't do it unless I can rest easy in my home. And voters, I'm coming to you now. Look at me. Listen to me. We're calling 14,000 people to show up and vote by the end of the 19th, the Thursday of this week, early voting, and maybe into election day as a huge vote. People, that's sad. We got 60,000 registered voters in this city, Jay. Did you know that? 60,000.
I knew how many residents. I knew the total population might be around 90.
Or 9 million, now 90. So if you take away kids and the elderly that can't vote, we're looking at 60,000, and we're bragging and happy over 14,000 people to show up and vote in this hotly contested race for 3 aldermen and a mayor. The 4th alderman is running unopposed. Can we sit there comfortably, people? Are you going to be able to just sit there and think about election day and early voting still going on, and you're still not going to make a sacrifice? God provided his son as a living sacrifice for every one of us, but yet we can't get up out of our chairs and get into our cars and drive to the polling booths and make a vote. I don't care if you vote for me or not. I really, really don't. I don't want this job. I told Brandy at the city West Haven debate that I wouldn't even be in this. I'd be at home if her votes just didn't go one way or another. She voted a way that I felt like that just would not work. And Brandy's eyes got big around as $50, and she couldn't believe it. And I'm still standing by that, Brandy. That's the only reason why I'm in it. And voters, if you want the Pride Festival, if you don't want to know any more about the Mid-8, if you don't want to reconsider the City Hall, if you don't want to think about urban growth and infrastructure, with infrastructure leading growth, not behind growth, if you're not going to think about water and the things that we can do to help protect water and do our work there, our due diligence right now, we're the buyer of water. God has supplied it. We're the buyer, so we're going to have to do our due diligence to take care of our water. If you don't want or think about any of these things and it doesn't matter to you, then stay at home. Please don't vote at all. But if these matter, come in and vote for whoever you want to. And if it's me, fine. If it's not me, that's fine. But I want to leave it to you voters. As Boma said in a meeting or two, let's leave it to the voters. And that's exactly where I want it. So please come out and vote. Meet me. Talk to me. When I come out on election day, my wife and I, we're going from polling place to polling place. And please stick your hand out, whether you're for me or against me, and say thank you for running.
It's a good word.
Thank you.
Good way to end. Did you want to wrap it up with a prayer?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity with this gentleman that's concerned about Franklin also, and this state and the nation, and as he prepares to do his talks with anyone and everyone that's willing to talk about our Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And Lord, our citizens of the nation, the state, and here, the county, and now here in the city. I'm not here to cause any wars. There's a spiritual warfare already going on. Our Lord knows about it. And yes, both sides know about it. We both agree to that, I think. It's just that we have a difference of opinion in this. Lord, please wake these people up. Give them the discernment, the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding to come forth with their votes and their minds, their opinions, and bring people in with them, whether they're going to vote for me or not. It does not matter. But let's decide this on the backs of thousands of people. Let's have up to 20,000 people. Wouldn't it be great? And that's just a third of our voting population coming out. If the lines are long, and I don't care if it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, Lord, I'm going to be there, and my wife will be there with me, congratulating and talking to people. And again, if I lose, I'm still going to be there congratulating anybody that has a part in this race. Lord, it's a race to be won. There are no participation trophies, Lord. There are 0. It's either you win this or not, and I'm not talking about this physical race. I'm talking about the spiritual race with you, Lord. And I want to win that race because no participation trophy will get me anywhere close. Lord, help us. Help us all. Lord, bring us all together. Keep us civil, Lord. Let's come together and revive Franklin, restore Franklin. Let's do the things that Franklin needs to do to represent you, Jesus Christ. And it's in Jesus Christ's name, people. It's Jesus Christ's name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Yes.
All right.